Countdown's on. Good evening and welcome to Latrobe City Council's Unscheduled Council meeting, which is being held at Kernot Hall. Tonight's meeting will be held with councillors and guests joining us in person and virtually. I'm pleased to welcome Councillor Potter, Councillor Pugsley, Deputy Mayor Councillor Sharon Gibson and Councillor Barnes in the room, and Councillor Howe will be joining us virtually. Welcome, Councillor Howe. Also with us tonight is our CEO, back again in the chair, Steve Piasanti. Our thanks to our acting CEO, Tim Ellis, for the last couple of weeks, and we also welcome our executive team. I would like to acknowledge that we're actually meeting here tonight on the traditional land of the Bryakalung people, and I pay my who are part of the Gunai-Kurnai Nation, and pay my respects to their elders past and present. If there are any other elders present, I'd also like to acknowledge them. Just moving on to some housekeeping, we conduct our council meetings under the governance rules currently in place. We welcome all members of the public attending both via the live stream and in person, and we've got a great crowd tonight, so welcome. I thank you for respecting protocols of the meeting which ensure that we can extend appropriate courtesy and respect throughout our meeting tonight. If councillors could ensure that they raise their hands if they wish to speak so that I can see it. Speak directly into the microphone to ensure that they can be heard within the room and via the live stream. And when voting, raise their hands and leave them raised until I call their name. We now move on to item 2, which is apologies. And tonight we have apologies from Councillor Campbell, Councillor Morgan and Councillor Lund, who's on a leave of absence. Declarations of interest. Councillors, do we have any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest, that's good. We move on to acknowledgements. Councillors, are there any acknowledgements tonight? Nope, that's good. Public participation. We now move on to public speakers. We don't have any questions, do we, Mr. CEO? So we'll move straight on to public speakers, and there's one member of the public who's registered to speak tonight. That's Rick Nicholson. Rick, are you here? Yep. All right, we'll give you 3 minutes. You'll hear a bell with 30 seconds to go, and then a bell at 3 minutes. And if you can hang around at the end of that for any questions councillors may have. Thank you.
This is on, yes. Right. Hello, Mayor Harriman and councillors. My name is Rick Nicholson and I live in Baw Shire in Trafalgar. As you can see by the crowds we had at Morwell, last week we had a lot. Today I'm surprised there's so few, but there's many unhappy farmers and towns frustrated at wit's end with this new tax. And let's be clear, it's not a volunteer fund, but another state government tax in disguise. The VFA are striking en masse as they see the new tax providing even less for their association of mainly volunteers, and the ratepayers being charged to at least double, and the farmers triple, and the farmers even more. But the farmers are feeling the greatest pain. I've been to the Baw Shire meeting last week to see all the councillors outraged at this new tax and voted unanimously to object to the bill. This has also been supported in East Gippsland, South Gippsland and many other country shires. It's been designed to put you as councillors as modern debt collectors to cover a great and growing state debt. This is actually a great opportunity to see where we as councillors really stand. And I look at the emergency funds, the endorsement the Mayor's requesting, and the only one that I can see that we could actually agree on is the first one, which is abandon the new levy and not proceed. The other 4, I think, is going to be a difficult one to endorse. It's been designed to put you as the councillors as the modern debt collectors to cover this great and growing state debt. This is actually a great opportunity to see where we as councillors stand. We have seen the fruit of what has happened with the timber industry. At present, we are paying an extra $7,000 per truckload of timber from Tasmania to keep our own timber needs going. Being a farming community, many of you know the personal challenge of local farmers. Commerce has suffered with the closure of the timber industry, and it will be worse with the intended closure of the coal industry by 2030. Our farmers are the backbone of our community and are feeling the brunt of this new tax. For those who want to know more of the real-life situation, I encourage you to watch the film, Just a Farmer. According to the Guardian article, the suicide rate is at 32.2 compared with 16.6 per 10,000 males. And today we're asking you as representative councillors of Latrobe Shire to stand with the farmers and not just be a tax collector for the state government, and also not just be advocates for the farmers by appealing to the government and hoping for the best. The legislation needs to be challenged, but we need to join with other councils like South Gippsland, East Gippsland, Loddon, Mansfield, Indigo and Swan Hill to make a stand. A stand for farmers is a stand for our community. I know there will be consequences and threats that the government will take these new taxes any way they can. However, if we get more shires standing for this cruel and lopsided tax, the government will be forced to listen. The German and Dutch farmers had some great success by making this united stand. That's it, I'm saying now. This is your time to stand with the farmers and your local community and stand for what is right. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. Perfect timing. Councillors, have we got any questions for Rick? Councillor Gibson.
Thank you very much for speaking today. This does get to me, and I'm not the farmer. Could you tell me a bit more? I missed it. I was just helping about the mental health part that you were speaking about, please.
Right. There's a film called Just a Farmer, which they funded themselves, and it's about the great suicide rate that's happening in Victoria, where farmers are economically, they're at the wall, no one's listening, so they made a film themselves to promote what's really happening, and it's been a great success. But the associated that was an article from the Guardian paper saying how the farmers are the sort of the hidden danger now that's happening in our state with double the suicide. And it's just horrific. And we know that farmers work 7 days a week. Most of us here, we work 35 hours and we think we've done a full week. We know the average farmer, and there's quite a few here, 70 hours is nothing for them.
Yep, that answer your question, Councillor Gibson. Thanks, Rick. Councillors, any other questions? All right, thanks, Rick. Appreciate you coming to... Sorry, question for the CEO. Thanks, Rick. Appreciate your time. Thank you. Councillor Gibson, a question for the CEO.
Yes, please, Mr Mayor. As for the collection of this tax, can you explain about the legislation and how the choices we have, please?
Mr CEO.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Thank you, Deputy Mayor, for the question. As with most legislation of this type where the government requires councils to be the collection agency, there are impacts of not fulfilling those legislative obligations. So as far as I understand, there has been some legal advice sought from a number of councils, and I've had a brief review of that. I note the motion before council also talks about presenting a future report in relation to that, so that will become publicly known in terms of a report being presented back. But effectively, there are mechanisms the government can use to require council to collect the levy. There's also, for example, if a person in the community, if it is to be implemented as has been put forward by legislation, if a person chooses not to pay a portion of their rates, regardless of whether they believe they're not going to pay, for example, they choose not to pay the levy component, council is still required to pass on a proportion of the levy regardless. And so where there's obligations as part of legislation, but we'll make that abundantly clear when we bring back a further report. There's no way, the way I understand the legislation is written, for council to not collect it. There are some options for council to better communicate as part of a rates notice, how much of that is as part of levies, which we currently do, for example, with our EPA levies that we pass on from the state government once they're collected by us from the community. So we'll make that abundantly clear when we bring back that future report.
Thank you, Mr CEO.
If the motion passes as...
If the motion passes.
Tonight's agenda. Sorry, being a bit presumptive, I assume it will.
Thank you for that, Mr CEO. Councillors, we now move... Yep, sorry. No, he's up over there. Yep, it's hard. I was actually going to say to the IT team, not everyone on council can see Councillor Howe. Can we flick him to the Zoom meeting that we currently have Councillor Gibson and Councillor Barnes on, just so all the councillors can see and hear him? There we go. Thank you very much. That's better. Thanks. All right, councillors, we now move on to item 5, notices of motion. One item in this, and it's 6.1, Emergency Services and Volunteer Levy Fund. Councillor Potter, I note you.
I wish to move that, please, Mr Mayor.
Yep, thank you, Councillor Potter. Councillors, do I have a seconder?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'd like to second that motion too, thank you.
Councillor Potter is moving. Councillor Barnes is seconding. Do I have any opposition? Councillor...
I have an amendment, please.
You guys love doing this to me. Okay. Councillor Pugsley has an amendment. Councillor Pugsley, what is your amendment?
My amendment is essentially the same, except for there is a point 3 right at the end, that council notes that the state government have delayed the implementation of the levy for farming properties only for 12 months.
Okay. Do I have a seconder for that motion?
Happy to second.
Councillor Gibson, thank you. Okay, we now need to put whether we will accept the amended motion, and we are able to speak to that. So I'll go to you, Councillor Pugsley. Did you wish to speak?
Yes, thank you.
Good.
Okay. Through you, Mr Mayor, I'd like to state that for the record that this levy is an unfair levy on all of our residents. I note that late last week there was an announcement that farmers would have a temporary reprieve this year from the levy. However, that is not enough. Based on the original proposed figures that this levy was going to cost our community an estimated $5.9 million more just in the extra year alone. Even with the reprieve our farmers have won for this year, the rest of our residents will have to pay approximately $5.2 million extra. This is a lot of money lost out of our community.
Thank you, Councillor Pugsley. Councillor Gibson, did you wish to speak?
Just quickly, Mr Mayor, I'm more than happy to support this addition into the motion because, let's get it right, it's only for 12 months and it's only for farmers. So I'm happy to support.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Councillors, do I have a speaker against the motion? A speaker for the amendment? Any councillor wish to speak? Okay, councillors, we're going to put it to the vote to accept the amendment as the substantive motion. So do I have, got a move, got a seconder? All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Howe, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Gibson, Councillor Barnes and myself. I declare that motion carried unanimously. Councillors, we now move into discussing the now substantive motion, which is the amended motion. Councillor Pugsley, you moved. Do you wish to speak to the new motion?
I think it's already been said. Basically, I will very briefly. The whole levy is a real burden on all of our residents. I really think that it's not going to do our community any good. I definitely feel for the farmers. I come from a farming background myself, and I know how difficult it is just to put food on the table sometimes. And that's sometimes in a good year. And I know that many times my family had to go off the farm to work. This levy is just going to be, it's going to break a lot of people. And I'm really worried about the mental health issues too that our farmers are going to actually experience with this. So I'm going to leave it there. Perhaps Sharon Gibson and Councillor Gibson may pick it up for me.
Thank you, Councillor Pugsley. Councillor Gibson, you seconded. Did you wish to speak? Yep.
Yes, please. Because let's get this right. This is not just a levy. This is a grab for cash. And it's our most vulnerable that are going to pick up the cost of this. Regional Cities Victoria, in the first 3 days, they said there was 17 farmers who actually took their lives. And that's in the first 3 days, let alone now. So we're requesting, I would have put it a bit stronger, that the state government abandon this tax. We cannot afford it. We cannot afford it financially, but mental health-wise, we cannot afford it. So we're calling on the state government to abandon this grab for cash. Now, some of the, while it's nice for 12 months reprieve for the farmers, it doesn't stop the rest. I'll have to read this, sorry. Residentially, the rate goes up 26%. Industrial goes up 58%. So if you had a property worth $3.5 million, or you would need to pay the cost on $5.5 million. 58%, it gets better. Commercial properties, it goes up 75%. So if you had a property worth 1.6, you're now paying on a $3 million property. Vacant land. Now, people buy a block of land because they want to eventually build on it. That is going up 183%. So $154,000 block of land will be worth, or on the books, $436,000, and you'll pay that levy on that money. And you wonder why our food relief, as soon as they get the food in, as soon as they get the food in, within an hour, it's gone, and they don't get any more food relief back for 2 weeks. Now, originally the levy was for the CFA and FRV. Now it's for CFA, FRV, CES, OOO, DECA, Fire Emergency and Emergency Management Victoria. I know personally from the Moe Fire Brigade, their truck, they had to rotate it, and their truck is worse than what they had. So how, by splitting it, even if everyone was able to pay this levy, how can you actually get decent equipment for those FRV or CFA? You cannot, because you now have to spread it with 5 other agencies. And I will shut up because I'm out of time. So let's be real about this. This is not a levy because it goes into the state coffers and it's a tax.
Thank you, Councillor Gibson. Councillor Pugsley, you have a question?
Could I have a question to the CEO through you, please, Mr Mayor?
Yep.
Could I please have clarification of who is Emergency Management Victoria?
So Emergency Management Victoria, thank you, Councillor, for the question, is the agency that's been established, and one of their primary roles now relates to events and activities that happen in terms of emergencies. So they help respond, or organisations provide funding to us, for example, in terms of response relief work that needs to happen once a fire's gone through. So they also have other responsibilities in terms of coordinating events and disasters across the state. So that's I think their primary functions of that entity.
Yep. Thank you, Mr CEO. Councillors, do I have a speaker against this motion? Do I have a speaker for this motion? Councillor Potter.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and through you. It's good to see the Victorian Government has actually listened, in part, to the concerns of farmers and rural communities by pausing the levy for the next financial year. I think that's really encouraging. But it really shows that they actually listen to the outcry that farmers put on. It's very unusual for farmers to leave their farm and go and protest, and to see the numbers that we saw right across the state was encouraging, I thought. But, you know, we really need to still be thinking about this is only a pause, so it's still hanging over our head, and we really need to be asking the state to have a reassessment of what they're doing and how they're putting this fund in, how it operates, and why is the burden falling disproportionately onto rural Victoria. Look, the fund hasn't been scrapped and it hasn't been restructured, and that's what we're really wanting, isn't it? So we really need that certainty. Farmers need certainty, rural councils need certainty, and right now, none of that has been delivered. The timing couldn't be worse. We're in the grip of one of the worst droughts in living memory right across Victoria. Not all of us have been declared drought affected, but we still are. The autumn rains that we so desperately needed just didn't come, and now we're staring down the winter with the dry soils and the cold ground that will make it near impossible for meaningful pasture to actually grow. This is not just a difficult season, it's a crisis, and our communities are feeling it every day. So at a time when farmers are doing it really hard just to hang on, when they're making impossible decisions about feeding livestock, about carting and conserving water, about keeping their businesses actually afloat, they shouldn't have to be worrying about an ill-timed levy that has hit regional Victoria. And so I support Council reaching out to the state government and calling for a complete rethink of this fund. We need a new approach, one that's fair, equitable, and recognises the unique challenges faced by rural and regional Victoria. An approach that doesn't treat our emergency services as something to be funded by those who are vulnerable and less able to bear the costs. So let's make this pause permanent. Let's work with the government, advocate strongly and ensure long-term solutions, one that delivers real fairness for the people who actually feed and protect this land.
They've got 30 seconds left. You've got 30 seconds.
I've finished, thank you, Mr Mayor. I thought my timing was perfect.
Done. Thank you, Councillor Potter. Councillors, do I have a speaker against the motion? Speaker for the motion? Any councillor wish to speak? Yep, Councillor Barnes.
Through you, Mr Mayor. I think what everyone said tonight, first of all, I'd like to thank Rick Nicholson for speaking tonight. It was really good to get someone up who's been in that sort of background. And I think, you know, what we need to do, we just need to scrap this tax because the farmers are blooming hard workers. And I've been around for a long time and I see what they go through. They go through good times and they go through bad times. So without them guys, you ain't going to have anything to eat or nothing like that. We don't want to see people going broke or things happening. I think it's about time we start to look after them a bit and give them a bit of a go. That's it.
Thanks, Councillor Barnes. Councillors, it's not normal for the chair to speak, but I don't think this is a normal circumstance, so I am going to speak. So, and I'll give myself extra time if I need it. Just looking at the team, I saw a sign at the rally in Melbourne that really caught my eye, and it said "Guillotine the tax," and it took me back to where the guillotine came from, and it was an unfair tax in France a few centuries ago. It was a lady by the name of Marie Antoinette, when people in the streets were complaining that the tax had left them with no food, was to let them eat cake because they couldn't afford bread. And it was actually the local councils, it was the mayors and the councillors in France that rose up against that tax, that rose up against that government and actually overthrew it and brought in the French Republic. And I think what we're seeing across Victoria, and I'm proud to say this council is part of Regional Cities Victoria, which has taken a leading role in fighting this tax. We actually had an emergency meeting this morning discussing how we're going to go forward and attack this tax, and we're going to axe this tax. But it's great to see that this fight is being led by local councils across Victoria, particularly our regional and rural councils, much the same as it was in France a couple of hundred years ago, that have risen up against a tax that attacks the people. It attacks our farmers, it attacks our business owners, and it attacks those businesses that employ people through industry, and it attacks us where we live. It is not a good tax. It is, and I know the state government will say it's a levy. When it goes into general revenue, by definition, that makes it a tax. So I'm very pleased that we've got this notice of motion, amended notice of motion going up tonight. I'm pleased that we've had councillors speak out in support of it and speak out in support of our community. Thank you. Councillors, we've had speakers, so we're now going to put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Councillor Potter, Councillor Pugsley, Councillor Howe, Councillor Gibson, Councillor Barnes and myself. I declare the motion carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. This now concludes our council meeting tonight. Thank you to the members of the community that showed up to support us tonight. We really do appreciate it. Thank you to Rick for speaking. And thank you to the members that have joined us online. To you, we say good night, thank you, or good afternoon. Thank you for coming, and we look forward to you joining our next meeting, and we'll obviously hang around and have a chat to you. Thank you very much. And to our online crew, thanks, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Bye.